Welcome to the first episode of Travel with Abby and Megan. I am Abby Gray, and this is my business partner, Megan Buteau. By day, I'm a chef, and Megan is a lawyer, but together we created a boutique travel company. I've been on here before thanks to Cookie Giordano as the host for Charlestown Live, and I am so pleased that she has invited us back to do a show on travel and food. And without her continued interest and support in our travel journeys, we would not be able to go beyond Charlestown and bring the world to you. Travel with Abby and Megan is a boutique tour company, like I mentioned a few moments ago. And we select destinations based on food and culture primarily. We want to bring interesting recipes, beautiful art, cultural experiences to you, and we want to bring you with us to do that. Travel with Abby and Megan started this year, and we currently go to France and Italy, and we are going to be adding Morocco and Spain hopefully next year. We're excited about that. We are looking to do a Morocco familiarization trip, which will be really fun. But today we're going to talk about the fabulous district of the Marais in Paris. We were lucky enough to go last June, and the Christmas market that takes place in Paris, the markets that take place in Paris are pretty amazing. We're focusing on one neighborhood, the 3rd and 4th arrondissement in Paris, because it's a very special neighborhood, and the market, the Christmas market is new to that neighborhood, but the food market to that neighborhood is not. We are also going to talk to you about some holiday recipes. The very popular bûche de Noël, or as we say, the Yule log, is a very popular and beautiful dessert and almost always served at Christmas dinner. But let's start with some background about the district. Megan, we love the Marais.
We do.
The history is so rich, and what makes it so special for you?
Well, the Marais is a historical district in Paris and has been described in the past as a small and approachable Paris of the past, spread across the 3rd and 4th arrondissements, as you had mentioned. Watch my tongue doesn't get tangled. It has more pre-revolutionary buildings and streets left intact than any other parts of Paris. So now for the 4th arrondissement is the Marais glitzier half. It is sandwiched between the two opposite poles, the regal Place de Versailles in the east and the eye-catching masterpiece Centre Pompidou in the west.
And that's the on the screen now are those two buildings which anchor the district.
Yes. Between these 2 points, you'll find the main sites, including the Musée Picasso, which we were lucky enough to visit this past June, and which was recently restored open to the public in about 2014 after their restorations.
They redid all the marble staircases and the iron throughout the building and the wood, which we have some pictures of.
Yeah, it's a beautiful museum, and it's a great contrast of sort of the modernism of Picasso's art and his artwork with the antiquity of the building. And they really did a lovely job not only restoring the building, but giving you a feel for Picasso's artwork, and then also his own collection is housed there as well.
And how did his collection come to be housed there? Because it's kind of cool with the family.
Right. So Picasso spent most of his adult life in Paris, and then when he passed, in order to not have to pay the estate tax on his estate, they were able to donate the artwork to Paris, to France. And so they opened up this museum as a result of this beautiful collection.
Which is interesting because you also don't have to pay any tax on art in the city of Paris, which is kind of cool. So if you go over and you buy a very expensive painting, there's no tax on it. Which is, if you happen to have the money to buy a few pieces of artwork.
More incentive, right?
Also, I was thinking about, it's interesting because a lot of people, like we were saying, we like to go to Spain as well, but the Picasso influence is huge in Paris.
Yes.
And when you're in Barcelona, one would think that all the Picassos were housed there.
Right.
So we stumbled upon this museum and all the artworks that had been donated. It was really special.
Right, yeah, it's a great place. And like I said, he spent most of his adult life in Paris, so you can see those influences as well in his artwork.
In his artwork, okay.
So, but I mean, the Marais has so much to offer. The Maison Européenne de la Photographie is also in the Marais, and the Musée Carnavalet, which is a really special museum. It's also housed in another beautiful
too. That's
building. Yep. And it really explains the history of Paris and how it came to be. Unfortunately, it's been closed for renovations with no date yet released for when they're going to reopen. But you want to keep your eye out on it and be sure to go there once it does open.
Yeah, no, that picture I think is taken from a trip that I went on a few years ago. And what's really neat about that is there's art all over Paris, obviously, and furniture, but that museum, as you've mentioned, happens to house a lot of personal collections from former presidents, from aristocrats, other members of the government,
Right.
pieces of like desks from former presidents and furniture. And it is just, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous museum.
And that's why, because it's not just artwork, but it really sort of spans the history of Paris, is why I like to recommend it to families, because it really appeals to people of all ages, kids to adults to grandparents. So it's a nice thing to take in.
Yeah, and we think it changes every season. We have to update what is on the museum tour, but once that opens, I'm sure that will be one of the things that we would hit regularly.
Definitely.
Yeah. So then,
if we want to tour a really beautifully restored 17th century Hotel Particulier, we visit the excellent Musée Connacht-J, or wander into the manicured back garden of the magnificent Hotel de Sully. And these are also beautiful examples of French architecture, and museums. You get to see how people lived in this district. It was former homes and
former apartments.
Former apartments, which were the homes of where people lived in the Marais district.
Yeah, and I don't know, did they show that one picture of you? The picture of Megan by the door is as we were entering the back of the hotel. There it is. We're entering the back of the Hotel Sully, and that's one of the entrances when you're going on the walk of the Marais.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we had talked about the Marais being in the 3rd and the 4th arrondissement. What differentiates the 4th from the 3rd, Abby?
Well, Megan, there's a lot that differentiates. The 3rd arrondissement is half of the quarter, is a lot quieter. It's not nearly as glitzy as the 4th. It's quieter. It's around the Rue de Bretagne and has become one of Paris's most in-demand places to live. It's very expensive, high-rent district. But it's interesting to explore, especially for the food. Here you'll find intriguing off-the-tourist track boutiques. You'll find bars, galleries, plus sites like the Musée d'Art and the Métiers, which is Europe's oldest science museum. That's another really fun one to go to with the kids.
Yeah.
But back to food. The 3rd is Paris's Jewish quarter, the Plitzel, Yiddish for little place. And I hope I said that correctly. It's existed in the Marais in some form since the 13th century, and it still thrives around the Rue de Rossy. It even has hipster hangouts, which are really cool, which encroach on the traditional bakeries and delis. And we always visit 2 of the best falafel houses, which is always a surprise to the folks who tour with us, because no one ever expects kind of this rich Jewish food and culture in this area. The picture on the screen now is Las Douce Falafel. It's a famous place in the Marais. It is the more commercial of the 2. The rivalry is real between Las Douce and King Falafel Palace, which is right across literally right across like a little sidewalk.
Yeah, the lane.
The lane. And we got there this summer, didn't we? And
We did.
there was a real scuffle. People were really getting angry.
People are very true to their falafel allegiance, I think. And so we almost got pushed down on the street because we picked King Falafel over Ladue on our walking tour. But regardless of the kerfuffle that happened, we do try and get back there as often as possible, because once you've had it, it's hard not to go back.
Yes. People. We have a lot of friends who land and go. Literally, will run to that part of the district. Yeah.
Right. From there, I would head over to the Christmas markets. It's that time of year, and it's a market of gifts, arts, and curiosities, like nothing you've ever experienced here in Boston. Even though SOA does an amazing job here, the Christmas markets in France and Europe in general are a long-standing tradition. artisans, crafters, soap makers,
Honey
linens.
makers, wine makers,
Right, right.
perfume makers.
Yeah, they come from all over France to sell at this market.
And we were talking about this in the car on the way over, that the perfume is a huge industry in
Right.
Paris, in France,
Right.
much like the wine industry. And there are little perfumery stores almost all over
Right.
Paris. It's a very special gift.
Yep.
And especially at Christmas. And one thing we didn't talk about, but I just remembered, is when we went to Paris one Christmas, they do it all the time though, all throughout the year. When you go shopping in Paris or you buy special food that you're not going to eat right away, they wrap it as a cadeau, as a gift.
Yep.
So it's really fun because you get back to your hotel room and you realize that you have all these presents on your bed, and they might all be for you. But sorry, I interrupted your market.
Well, to get a feel, let's take a look at some of the pictures of the market that I'm talking about.
Oh, this is this is actually the food market.
Yes.
I think we might have unfortunately left out the pictures of the market because it's new. In
Right.
front of the Hotel de
So this
Ville.
year, Paris has many Christmas markets during this time of year, but in the Marais, there's a new market. New this year, and it's from December 14th to January 6th, and it is in front of the Hotel de Ville, which is also known as Paris's town hall, City Hall. And it sells typically Parisian products, so say some of like those perfumes that you were talking about, as well as other things that are unique to Paris. Now, it used to have a huge ice skating rink in front of the Hotel de Ville, but for environmental reasons, they decided to no longer have the ice rink, but instead have this beautiful Christmas market. And this market has many things for kids, such as a illuminated forest, a beautiful big merry-go-round with wooden horses, or even a small train. And
the illuminated forest really shouldn't be overlooked. We don't have a picture of it yet because
Right.
it's not happening
so new
yet. And
to
it's
the
new.
markets, yeah.
But it will be spectacular, like large trees.
Fir trees that are lit up and yeah.
I don't know, do they have Douglas fir?
Yeah, French fir trees.
French fir trees.
and so those will be all lit up, and it's beautiful to walk around and just really take in the sights and sounds of the season. So Christmas markets are all about getting together with people, community, and you don't want to forget the food. So while you're there, be sure to sample the waffles, pancakes, and mulled wine. And now, if I was to do some of my holiday shopping for my big holiday dinner when I'm in the Marais, would you have any recommendations?
I would. So first of all, the food that's sold at the markets, the shopping markets, is really for consumption kind of right there at the market. We're going to head over to the Marché des Enfants Rouges, which is, it's kind of cool, the history of that. It goes back to the 1500s, and the strange name of the Red Children was derived from a hospital, an orphanage back in the 1500s. And they housed countless amounts of lost children who were all dressed completely in red. So originally, a few vendors set up vegetable stalls next door to the orphanage, and hence the name, the Market of the Enfants Rouges, which means red infants. And in 1615, in the reign of Louis VIII, it became a full-fledged popular market. And in 1777, it was transformed into a covered market. So it's the city's largest covered market.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's the oldest one in the city. And the orphanage and hospital were abandoned. The name stuck, though, however, and we think Faneuil Hall is old. It's not nearly as old. It was a continuous market until 1994. And then they found that the structure was in peril, and it was collapsing, and it was condemned. And happily, due to the efforts of Jacques Chirac and some of the local politicians and the neighborhood folks, they were able to rebuild it. It's important. It's a very important part of the city, especially to the Parisians, and the market's really lively. You have everything from fresh poulet, fresh chicken, to raspberries, to handmade pastries, fresh bread. You have a boulangerie and a patisserie, which are they're different. A patisserie is pastries, boulangerie is bread. There's a fun story about the boulangerie that the baguette is a certain weight because the metro workers, when they were building the metro, used to stick it in their pockets, and they all had to have the same weight in their pockets. But they also do seafood picked up at the local docks. They have mules, and they have oysters are traditional at Christmas. So some of the things that are traditional at Christmas, they always have fish. They always have the Yule log, which we have the recipe for you. And usually they have something like 7 to 8 fish. It's not the same as the Italians, but it's similar in terms of the amount of fish on Christmas Eve. And they serve something like 13 desserts.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you about the dessert part of it.
Well, dessert. Our kids' favorite is the desserts. So we have this beautiful bûche de Noël that we can give you the recipe for. And then I'm going to make a fresh mignonette sauce for oysters, because oysters are typically found in Brittany. They're brought to the market every day fresh, and then you can go and pick out your own oysters like you can here. Yeah. We get our oysters a lot from Duxbury here at Island Creek Oyster, but we have beautiful oysters from all along the coast, Wellfleet oysters, Chatham oysters, the North Shore, etc. So while I get ready to demonstrate how to make the sauce, we're going to play a video of our trip to France so you can see a little bit about what we do and where we go, and includes the Marais.
Right, some more pictures of the Marais.
Yeah, we were there last June. So enjoy the video while I get ready to make some sauce.
Des yeux qui font c'est les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche. Voilà les portraits sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens. Quand il me tient dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Il me dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, et ça me fait quelque chose. Il est entré dans mon cœur une part de bonheur dont je connais la cause. C'est lui par moi, moi par lui dans la vie. Il me l'a dit, l'a juré pour la vie. Et dès que je l'aperçois, alors je sens en moi mon cœur qui bat. Des nuits d'amour à en mourir, un grand bonheur qui prend sa place. Les ennuis, les chagrins s'effacent, heureuse pour mon plaisir. Quand il me tient dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Il me dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, et ça me fait quelque chose. Il est entré dans mon cœur une part de bonheur dont je connais la cause.
Welcome back. We are here and going to make a mignonette sauce for the oysters. Hopefully you enjoyed our little trip around Paris.
Yes, and around the Marais.
Around the Marais. So I'm going to make a classic mignonette sauce, which you would definitely make in Paris. You would probably make it here too in the Northeast.
Yeah,
it's a
definitely.
very popular sauce. I know folks like to add Tabasco, and which is also good. And lemon is also wonderful to have on hand. But Here we're going to use, what makes it French, is we're going to use, and I always put a little garbage bowl in front of what I'm doing so that my skins from my onions can go in there. I'm going to cut this in half because we only need a few tablespoons of a shallot. The recipe will be up on the screen for this. It's super easy, but I would recommend a shallot and yellow onion, but shallot is a French onion. So that's why it's good for this particular recipe. It's very fragrant and it's very flavorful. It really adds a lot to French dressings.
Yeah.
A French chef would always add a shallot.
So in place of a regular yellow onion like we would do here?
Yeah, I mean, I always say if you don't happen to have a shallot on hand, but you want to make this and you've got oysters, go right ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so we always cut. People like to see onions cut, and what I'm going to do is I'm just cleaning that onion. So I leave the butt of the onion on, and the butt of the onion on. And the reason I do that is because I'm going to slice across it. I'm going to move this so you can see. I'm going to slice across it. I'm going to hold it together, and I'm going to take my very sharp knife, and I'm going to cut through this small shallot 4 to 5 times. That's because if I'm in a kitchen and I have a head chef who's telling me he wants a small dice, that's what I'm doing right now. Now I'm going to go across. I'm going to hold my knife like this. I'm going to put my fingers on either side of the shallot so that I can hold it together. But it's not going to totally fall apart because I left that butt on. And the reason I do that, I'm doing it slow now so that you can see what I'm doing. But typically when we're in a kitchen and we have to make a lot of sauce, I'd be cutting onion after onion after onion. Now we're going to go back across the onion and we're going to make that small dice. And this is going to become a couple tablespoons of the shallot, which we're going to use for the dressing. And you can see you have the end of that. I'll put it there. If I was at home, I would put it in a pot and I would make vegetable stock with it. I'm going to put my onion right in here. There's no reason to keep it on the cutting board. I'll just move this a little bit closer. Okay, so what we're doing, I always put a little bit more in than it calls for. The recipe actually calls for 2 tablespoons of finely chopped shallots. That's probably 3 to 3.5, but it's good, so you should always add it. Okay, so then moving on, super easy. We're just going to do a couple turns of pepper. People don't add enough pepper sometimes, so I think that's a problem. They get scared of pepper, but you need it.
And just black peppercorns, is that what you use?
Yeah, just black peppercorns for this particular recipe. I also use kosher salt or sea salt. It's just, it's a big flake. It's much better in savory cooking. I don't typically use table salt ever, but I do use it in baking occasionally. I typically use the bigger sea salt. Okay, and then we have, moving along, we have 1/2 cup of red wine vinegar. You could also use white wine vinegar.
Oh.
Either, okay?
That's great.
So you just pour it in like that. I'm just gonna take a whisk, and we're just gonna whisk it. Super easy. It's pretty. Now what I would do if I was at home, I'm going to serve this on Christmas Eve, I would make this in the morning. I would put it in a little refrigerated container and I would put it in my refrigerator until the evening when I was going to serve my oysters. The thing is, I'm going to cut another oyster, Megan, so you can taste it.
Oh, great.
I've got a couple here. Jeremy Sewell actually taught me how to shuck oysters in culinary school. I am no Jeremy Sewell, but I will definitely see what I can do. I'm not wearing an oyster glove. I'll show you. I'm going to move the sauce over here. So you are not allowed to buy shucked oysters, FYI.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to shuck them yourself. You can, like if you get them from Island Creek in Duxbury, you can get them at the market and ask them to shuck them. They have a license.
Oh.
But if you get it at Whole Foods or a local market or a fish store, they are not allowed to shuck for you. Because once you open, what I'm doing here is I'm taking an oyster knife and I've opened the top of the shell, and now I'm going around and I'm going to what I'd like to do, if it's not too hard, is I'm going to cut it so it leaves the oyster intact, but it takes the muscle out. And let's see if I did that. Yep, okay. So I can cheat a little bit because I want to show you how pretty it is with the sauce. And there we go. Actually, that worked out pretty well. We have, that's the oyster. This is the shell. Okay, Megan, let's see how this sauce is.
Okay.
Okay. Give you a little shallot. I'm just going to taste the sauce because you should always taste something before you give it to somebody. It's very vinegary, so just beware.
Okay.
All right, and I'll do one too.
All right.
So yeah, oysters are very,
They're delicious.
they're very delicious, and they're also very celebratory. Like people do enjoy
Right.
getting a dozen oysters in champagne, a dozen oysters in Sancerre. It's a very celebratory thing to get.
And as you said, they're also key components of kind of the French holiday dinner, right?
Yes.
Good food, oysters, and wine.
Good food,
Cheers.
oysters and wine. Cheers. All right. Oh, it's good.
Delicious.
You slurp them. I don't know if that's technically a nice way to do it, but that's the way you do it. I always eat it all in one. So the oyster, I can shuck some more for the, I'll definitely do those for the crew before we end. So this recipe will be on the website. Obviously, it's pretty easy, but it's really delicious. And if you just have some extra and you don't contaminate your spoon, you can throw it on your salad.
Oh, great.
Remember, raw fish, don't contaminate your spoon.
Excellent advice. Thanks, Abby.
You're welcome. What else do we have, Megan?
Well, as we're wrapping up, like you said, this time of year is a beautiful time to be in France, and some of our favorite things are the markets, tour around the Marais. You can't go wrong. There's beautiful illuminations, lights in and around Paris. Some of our
Yes.
favorite spots to check them out are Champs-Élysées, Montmartre,
Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain.
Beautiful neighborhood,
The
great
Eiffel
shopping.
Tower. Yeah, the Eiffel Tower.
Okay.
And so another favorite spot of ours is the beautiful Sainte-Chapelle with their beautiful stained glass windows. Be sure to take that in and some of the concerts.
There are the pictures on your screen. It is really gorgeous, and they
Yeah.
have these concerts that they do. We were lucky enough to see Vivaldi's Four Seasons, but
Right.
at Christmas they have.
They have choir concerts, and it's just a beautiful place in the first arrondissement, a little hidden gem that you can kind of tuck yourself into and really just enjoy the beautiful pictures of the stained glass windows, as well as the choral and instrumental pieces.
So we're getting told we're almost done, Miss. So we
Right.
have to tell them how to get a hold of us.
Oh, that's right. So to find out more about us, you can go to www.cookingwithabby.com/travel. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Travel with Abby and Megan.
Yep.
And if you have any questions about some travel tips, recipes, our thoughts, feel free to email us at travelwithabbyandmegan@gmail.com. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're thrilled to be back and part of Charlestown and beyond, obviously.
Yes.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and may your holidays be healthy and happy no matter which one that you celebrate.
Yes.
And thanks again, Cookie, for letting us have this half
Right.
hour with you all.
Yeah, best wishes in the new year.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.